So all of us grew up wanting to visit Jerusalem, and all of us desire to visit Jerusalem. Brother Mahmood had this opportunity recently. Brother Mahmood, for those of you who do not know him, is the co-founder of MAPS. He is the current president of MAPS, and in his professional life, he is a senior director at Microsoft working for the M&A department. So without further ado,
thank you very much for everybody who has come, especially John and our guests in MAPS. I welcome you on behalf of MAPS. In the next 15 minutes, I really want to share my heart-touching experience that I went through in the month of October when I visited Israel and the holy places. I had an opportunity. Before I went there, I just wanted you to visualize that when I was growing up with my family, and I had visited so many times to Mecca and Medina, I always has this desire to visit the third holiest place for Muslims. Plus, it is not only for Muslims, but a place where is precious for the Jews, with Prophet Isa alayhi salam being there and the other religions. So I was really, kind of looking forward to this visit. And when this visit came into being as a business trip for me to Israel, when Microsoft bought a company, I kind of changed all my schedules and I said I must go there and see, and maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to make my ways to go and experience that. Then the trouble started in the area during just those 3 days when I was there. Before I started going there, the old city was locked. People were not allowed to go. So I was just debating, should I push my visit out, and do it at some other time. But then I said, let me just go ahead and make the visit. And I also took my wife with me, who is here. So these reflections are from both of us that I'm going to present. So when you look at it, this one was a lifetime opportunity for me. So before I went there, I was really humbled by the opportunity I'm having to go to that particular place. It is the third holiest place in Islam. It has historical, spiritual significance from all the religious perspective. It was a birthplace of our prophet, one of our prophets, Prophet Isa, was born there. And I was actually anxious to see, with so much news and media, what we hear, how the three religions are doing, at least in that part of the world. So as a center of the world. So let me share with you my journey. So I made my visit. I did my business on the first day, and the second day we arranged the tour to take us to the holy places. The pictures you are seeing is the pathway to the three most prominent holy sites of the world. One for Muslims, one for Jews, and one for Christians. I was really humbled going through that pathway because I wanted to visit these sites. At the same time, I was really shocked by number of steps and the journey I had to do to even reach to that pathway. I have not even seen that, with so many checkpoints around the way, and how I was even going to go inside the holy city or not, I wasn't sure. We were stopped, just before entering the city. The situation was very tense. So on one hand, I was really humbled by the opportunity that I had. On the other hand, I was really shocked, saying, we hear a lot about the greatest democracy in the Middle East, and how do we, take care of the people that are visiting that place. So then, my first visit was to the Masjid Al-Aqsa. So we went to the entrance, and one of the new experience I had was I had to recite, a verse from the Quran to make sure that I am actually allowed to go in it, which was a new experience for me and my wife, and we kind of fulfilled that. And then we entered the Masjid Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock. You can see the picture inside the courtyard. So when I entered the Masjid Al-Aqsa, the third largest place or the third holiest place for Muslims, I was really astonished to see only about 15 people there, 15 to 20 people maximum. And I was thinking to myself, when I go to Mecca or Medina, we have millions of people there, and here there are only, and many of the people that are there inside were over the age of 50. So there were no any young people, and fortunately probably I was over 50, so they allowed me to go inside. But that was really kind of touching for me. On one hand, I was in this place which was so dear to me while I was growing up. On the other hand, I was thinking, how are the people around this particular area coping with this? It's such an amazing. I went on a Thursday instead of Friday because we were not sure how the situation was going to be on Friday. Even Thursday it was very tense with a lot of police force in that particular area. But that was really astonishing to see inside Masjid Al-Aqsa that only a handful of people were there at that particular point in time. So then, I completed that visit. We visited the church of the Jesus where he was crucified. I had another colleague with me who was a Christian friend of mine, and he and his wife. So we visited that and finished that. Then we went to Bethlehem. I'm going to relate that story in a minute, but you can see this picture which was the birthplace of Prophet Jesus, and it was really humbling experience to be just standing in that particular area. And then once again, as I resigned myself to this enormity of this particular small area and the importance of it in all this religion, immediately I am countered by how people are facing. For example, when I will describe how I entered Bethlehem in a minute, but when I was near this particular place of the birth of the Prophet Jesus, I couldn't believe I was there. But at the same time, when I look at the surroundings, I see people who are really desperate, who are happy in their desperation, and who are very friendly to you. And I came from Tel Aviv, so I was just kind of visualizing what my experience there was compared to here. And once again, I was shocked by seeing the situation near that particular area, the development, the roads, the people trying to figure out how they do their living. Same thing on the Western Wall. I was able to see a sacred place for the Jews, and I was amazed by all three religions, whatever little number was there, going about doing what they feel is appropriate from their religious perspective. That was giving me a humbling experience of how three faiths can coexist. But as soon as you finish that experience, then you see immediately that you are shocked by the treatment of the regular human beings in different segments of this experience. And I'm not able to describe to you guys what our feeling was at that time. And independent of any religion or anything like, just purely on the basis of the human dignity and the human aspects of that particular segment of that. So I want to just show you. So this is Tel Aviv. This is a very modern city. It is the city that I have visited many countries in the world, Europe, Australia, you name it. So it's like any other Western city, fully developed, all types of amenities, all kinds of food, all kinds of stay that you can get into there. So this is like, you find no difference in that. You have all systems, all processes, everything is functioning as if there is nothing going on in the world. A very modern, developed city. So Tel Aviv maybe being the capital or the main action, then I had the opportunity to visit Haifa. Once again, it was very well developed. It has all organized stuff. You can even see some solar panels on the roofs of these houses. So and there wasn't any. And by the way, for people who haven't visited, I'm talking about 50, 60 kilometer or 100 miles at the maximum differences that you are able to see. This is another place I visited, one of the another tourist sites that I wanted to see, and you can see the development and all the nicer areas that are there. So this is Jerusalem, which is where we all claim, all the three religions, which is closer to the Masjid Al-Aqsa, the church and the Wailing Wall. This is what you can see. If you look at this picture, you may find, it is really crowded. But if you observe on it, you will see there isn't much development going on in this particular area of that city, although it is inside the larger population of Israel. So you would very distinctly, when you visit from one location to another, it will become very obvious without anyone explaining to this. So I want all of you to take a pause on these two pictures. One picture on my left here is of Haifa with all these latest amenities. And by the way, I took these pictures myself, and then may not be that good resolution, but you can see on the right side is the picture of a predominantly Muslim area in Jerusalem. Do you find any difference other than being not developed? Any one of you see any difference in the two pictures? Yes.
And what is the reason behind the picture anyway?
Yeah, I will come to a minute. So, if you zoom to this picture, you see in the top of these houses, there are black tanks. Okay, so if you go and look at those houses, I didn't realize this until I went into Bethlehem and I was asking my guide, why do you guys have all of these black tanks that I used to see when I was growing up in India? And the person very calmly relayed to me that we don't know when our water is going to come or not. Anytime the water is going to be cut, so we have in every one of these houses these tanks where we keep water for ourselves when the Israeli government disconnects the water for them without any rhyme or reason. And it was so shocking, not only to me, the colleague who was with me, he looked at them and said, this is what they call the democracy. And he wasn't a Muslim, he was a Christian person who was with me. And I said, Santosh, this is what you are facing. So, until and unless you go, and if you look at food, water, and air are the basic necessities of any civilized society. It is not even, like I grew up in a very poor neighborhood in India. If the water doesn't come, water doesn't go to anybody. It is not like a pocket where the water is not coming, another pocket, you have no problem. Then I thought, this one was only in the really Palestinian Authority controlled, West Bethlehem area. So on the next day when I was showing to those pretty places that I was going, while we were traveling on the road, we found some areas which are fenced inside Israel, which again had the same situation. They are right in the middle of the town, without having, it's very obvious, nobody need to explain. You see nice buildings, nice neighborhoods, and all of a sudden you see this pocket. And I asked the driver, what is this? Oh, this is a dangerous place. This is the place where, all the Arabs are there. And then you look on the top of these houses, you see these water tanks where people kind of save water whenever they get, for them to survive in those areas. Being a citizen and staying within that boundary. We are not even talking about Palestinian people which are in occupied territories. We are looking at the people inside the zone of Israel that you will see this. So this was really, once again, very shocking experience for me. And I had never imagined that when I go, I'm going to see this. So this is the two pictures. On the left is before we enter Bethlehem, that's near the border of that Bethlehem. So we arranged to go and see Bethlehem. So we were stopped at that border, and then we had to cross this border. We go all the time from Seattle to Vancouver, so I know how the borders look like. Very nice greenery, everybody is going through the same lane, it was completely opposite here. The walls of the border and the way you enter the border is so humiliating. I cannot describe. And I think the best thing anyone who is sitting here who has the capability to do is to visit that. So me and my wife, when we went through this alley of the border, we felt like we were entering into a prison camp because there was no paint. The walls were very high with the fence, and you are just walking through a maze after being checked your credentials, and visited, we came back. It was 5 o'clock that I was coming out of Bethlehem, and once again I saw a line of 200, 300 Palestinian people who were entering. In the morning they go through this experience with minimal stuff in their hands, and they go out, they serve or they work in this area, and then they come back in the evening. And we were returning, and when I saw this, for one experience for 10 minutes for me to visit this had such an enormous impact to me, and I couldn't even visualize how the people are able to do that. And nothing to do with Muslims, nothing to do with any religion. I was just amazed by the lack of human respect and dignity for the people. And the other thing that amazed me was, when you look at the faces of these people, you know, they are trying their best to hard work and feed their families because the opportunities inside are not there, so they have to go out and they come back in and they go through this experience every day, morning and evening. You can imagine that. So I was just asking the driver that, you know, how do you do that? Like John had said in his speech, when he said he wanted to resign, it kind of touched me. The driver was saying, this is our everyday life. And we are, you know, alhamdulillah, we are struggling in this particular environment. So what is the experience I had? I went with lot of imagination, lot of hope, and lot of the things. And I have a lot of Palestinian friends. They describe to me the situation. Yeah, I know people are in trouble, etc. But it never occurred to me the lack of human rights and the human dignity which the whole world is just not paying attention. Just not paying attention to. It is very obvious. You don't need a guide. You don't need anyone to explain you. I think if I have one action or one thing that I want to communicate to the people here is, and many of the families here, you have your relatives, your families in those areas, it's more personal and more touching to you. I don't have anybody there. I just went with another colleague of mine who is a Christian, and both of us came out with the understanding this is not a treatment that any human should go through this. Every day morning, you go through all these checkpoints, and you can imagine, actually, in one situation I saw, so when you go to the border in the United States, they ask you, or you show your passport, and they do that. It is very different for Palestinian people. They have to stand 30 feet with their hands up, and I have seen this. Women, little children, and the adults. First, they have to just stand like this, as if they have caught a culprit who has committed murder. And we are talking about the young kids and women. Then, with one hand, they have to take their ID and show it to them. After that, somebody will come and tap their body, and then they go to the people with the guns, and these people have nothing, with all their hand weapons. And then they allow them to go through the torture that I described. So it is not even, okay, after I am done that, I am left on it. And these, we are talking about those areas which are temporary checkpoints that they bring it up. It is not even like these permanent things. So anytime you are in a neighborhood with schools and the kids that have to go next day morning, you find there is a barricade and then people. The reason I know this in those 3 short days is, I wanted to go to Jericho, and my driver who company arranged was an Israeli driver, and I was saying, you can't go there. I said, why? No, because there is a lot of trouble. After, I'm a very persistent guy, so I kept telling him I want to take the risk and take me there, and he would say no. And finally, he knew I was a Muslim and my other friend was a Christian, so finally he says, yeah, they won't do anything to you. Because, he knows that I'm Muslim. But anyway, I couldn't make that trip for that, just because of all of these situations that are there. So, my experience in this short period of time really grounded the reality of the situation that exists in Palestine. I think, I'm not from a developed country. I came from India, one of the very underdeveloped countries. We are a minority in India as Muslims. But never you come across a situation today where a human being is treated the way that I have experienced that. So the best thing we could do, in my opinion, if I have money and all of that, is to buy tickets for people who can go without checks and checkpoints and all of that, who are local people, local citizens, just visit and come back. There is nothing more influential thing you can do. If they visit, they go inside the territories and come back. So Jazakumullah khair. I took a little bit more time, but I hope I was able to communicate our experience, and I thank my wife who was there with me as well.